Last week, I posted a poll so you guys could pick what type of video I make this week, and you guys seemed to pick story time, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Today, I'm going to be telling you guys about the time that me and my friends got harassed by a drunk lady on a roller coaster, and how this went from just some lady yapping to a full-on physical fight. So this story takes place back in July of last year, and as some of you may know, I'm in a drumline. As a group, we do a lot of traveling performances during the summer, and this year in particular, we were going to Kings Island. If you don't know what that place is, it's basically a giant amusement park located in Ohio. But anyways, as a group, this was not our first time going. This was actually our second year going. We went back in 2021, so I was pretty excited for this year. But anyways, when we got there, we did our thing, we performed in front of a lot of people, and then the rest of the 9 hours of the day that we were gonna be there was for us to just ride rides. There were about 40 people with us, so of course we got split up into groups, and I got split up with 3 other people. Now, we're gonna call these people Bert, Michael, and Gwandale. But you see, I was very lucky to get grouped up with these people, and here's why. A month before the trip, Gwandale had broke his foot in a golf cart accident, so he was just riding around on a scooter in a cast all day. At Kings Island, if you have an injury but you're still able to move around, you can get a pass from, the employees there, and you can skip all the lines to rides and instantly get on the roller coasters and stuff like that. And what makes this so cracked is that this doesn't just apply to the person with the injury, this applies to the people with you as well. So the whole day, we were just skipping through lines and instantly getting on roller coasters. It was some of the best shit that had ever happened to me here. If you're watching this, Gwandale, I'm just letting you know we totally used your injury to get on these rides, and I don't even feel bad about it. Now, before I get too far into the story, let me just explain that the lady harassing us was not the only weird thing I experienced this day. I also watched a girl just drop and have a seizure right as we were getting onto a ride. And just overall, the people down in Ohio are kinda different than the people down in my home state here in Illinois. The memes about Ohio were never funny, but the thing they got right was the people are very different there. Like, you know that video of that guy driving the miniature car in Cleveland, Ohio? That's basically how wacky it is there.
Cuz we got the goddamn miniature car here, South. What the fuck going on, cuz? Only in Cleveland, South. Cuz that been running all.
Anyways, towards the evening of the day, we came up on this ride called the Miami River Lumber Co. This ride was one of those like wooden roller coasters, and it was like 50 years old. That's the thing about Kings Island. They have so many wooden roller coasters, and some of them have been going since the fucking 70s, dude. Like, what's the point of not renovating these roller coasters? They're gonna fall and somebody is going to die eventually. Now, just like we had been all day, we entered the ride from the exit of it instead of the start of it to skip the line. The part where you get on the roller coaster is kind of elevated, so we had to help Gwandale's crippled ass up the steps. When we got up there, the roller coaster hadn't returned yet, so we just sat up there and waited with all the other people who had injury passes. Now, this is when things start to really escalate. Up on the platform with us, there was a lady up there, and she seemed very confused. She kept asking the numerous roller coaster employees up there if they could find her hat. She kept saying like, "Oh, can you help me find my hat? Where's my hat? Can you go find it for me?" It wasn't in that tone at all. It was in a very demanding, angry tone, but I'm not gonna reenact it. It's 2 a.m. on a school night. At the time, me and my friends really couldn't figure out why she was freaking out, but later we found out it was because she brought her hat onto the roller coaster ride and lost it. Now, I think it should be common sense that you just don't bring a hat on the roller coaster. That's just not a good idea. All 4 of us finally get up the steps, and that's when this lady starts to notice us and begins walking towards us. Now, keep in mind, at the time, we did not know she was really just having a freak out and overall harassing people, because we were just getting there. She walks up to us and just starts, looking us up and down, and then looks at the employee and is like, "You really brought 4 security guards for me?" Now, the 4 of us were just looking at each other like, what is this bitch talking about? But that's when I got a hint of her breath and realized that she was hammered. She pretty quickly found out that we were not security because we were wearing drumline shirts, which makes it pretty obvious. But that's when things get worse, because after she realizes that we were not security, she started interrogating all 4 of us. She asked like, "Oh, well, how did you guys end up skipping the line like that?" And after we explained it was because of my friend's injuries, she was like, "Nah." She then proceeded to ask all 4 of us for what our ages were, and when we told her, she was still like, "Nah." Now, for some reason, this made her turn her attention to me. I'm 17 years old, but I have a full-grown beard. So this lady starts tearing me apart for the beard I have and how shameful it was that I was lying about my age. Now at this point, me, Gwandale, and Bert, we all think this is funny because we know this bitch is just drunk, but Michael for some reason was really mad about this situation. After the fact, he even told me that he got close to punching her. Like, okay, whatever, Michael. After a while, she kind of lost interest in us and moved on to harassing this couple who was about the same age as us and was also up there because of a leg injury. Now, the couple had witnessed what had just gone on with her and us, so of course, the girlfriend started to, not look at her and tried to, avoid eye contact. But for some reason, this drunk bitch was so determined to get up into this poor girl's face. I don't really remember what she said to her, but I remember thinking, this grown woman actually sounds like she wants to fight this teenager right now. Now, this went on for 2 minutes, and finally, the girl's boyfriend got involved. He went up to the employee that the drunk lady was originally harassing, was like, bro, this lady is harassing people up here in a very violent way, and I don't know why you guys haven't called security yet. I guess this made the employee wake up because they got on their walkie-talkie and started calling for security. The drunk lady finally noticed that all this was going on, and she threw a fit. Upon hearing that security was called, the drunk lady pointed at all 4 of us and was like, well, I'm glad that you all are glad that you are white privileged. That's the part I remember the most because I've never been called white privileged before. This is when people finally started getting off the ride, and that's when we were going to be able to finally get in, get away from this lady, and finally enjoy the ride. But you see, this is not what happened at all. You see, after all 4 of us finally got sat down on the ride, that's when we realized that this drunk lady followed us into the building. As she walked in, she just kept rambling and rambling. I remember specifically she was rambling on about how her husband had been in the NFL for 7 years and how she was going to call him down there if they didn't give her her hat back. Now, this is when this lady started actually holding up the ride because she was getting so close to the railing where the roller coaster comes in. So of course, for safety reasons, the employees couldn't start the roller coaster up. So of course now everyone else waiting to get on the ride and who is already on the ride are starting to get really pissed off with this bitch. At this point, I had just tuned out of the whole situation because I was determined to finally ride the ride. But that's when I heard a lot of people all of a sudden start screaming. You know how when a fight starts and everyone starts gathering around, there's just a bunch of noise, a lot of screaming? Well, I looked behind me when I noticed that all these people were just all of a sudden getting louder, and I just see the drunk lady and this other random lady just mauling the shit out of each other. I'm sure you all know how a lot of girls fight. It isn't like just a bunch of, throwing punches like what it is with men. It kind of is just a lot of arm swinging and hair pulling. Whoever that lady was who decided to fight the drunk lady, props to them. Now, this is when security finally shows up, and security at Kings Island isn't necessarily armed, and the guy that showed up was like 5'4", and the drunk lady was at least 5'9", so he stood no chance. But he was able to lower the situation and was able to keep her away from the roller coaster so we could finally ride the ride. The ride was a solid 7 out of 10, It was pretty fast, but it wasn't like anything else we had been on that day. This wasn't a very long ride though, so within 3 minutes we were back within the waiting area. When we returned, it looked like the drunk lady was starting to get riled up again, and there was more security guards who were still unarmed. Me, Michael, Bert, and Gwandale, we didn't want to wait around to see what would happen, so we just quickly left the ride. But as we were walking out of the exit area, we saw 4 cops run into the ride, and unlike these security guards at Kings Island, they were hustling. Now after this, we didn't really see much of what happened next, but there was another group, a part of the drumline, in line who could still see what was going on. When they got done with the ride, they basically told us that the drunk lady tried to attack the cops, got slammed, put in handcuffs, and is being arrested. Bert and Michael didn't want any more to do with the situation, but me and Gwandale had to see the last of her before she got pulled away in the police car. We got to a spot that was kind of distant from the situation so we could at least see what was going on. We saw the police officers struggling to pick the drunk woman up and put her into a wheelchair because, when you're drunk and you get tackled, you're probably not going to get back up. That was the last we ever saw of the drunk lady, and me and Gwandale still, to this day, refer to this day as the Kings Island incident of 23. So, moral of this story is that if you're going to get really drunk at an amusement park and you're going to go on some rides, be sure to not wear your hat. My guess is that the amusement park banned her for life and she went to jail for a few days, unless supposedly that supposed husband of hers from the NFL bailed her out. We'll never truly know.
Waffle king and waffle cone, look another leafy clone. You must be so alone, voice just so monotonous, and rappers guess you just don't really catch the message. Promise videos 2 months past, oh how impressive.